Someone asked me a couple months ago, how old are you? I said, how young am I? I'm 73. And I never take life for granted because tomorrow is not promised. I do get my flu shots. I get everything I can.
At 82 years old, the Queen of Soul just collapsed right in the middle of the stage. The microphone fell from her trembling hands and crashed to the floor. The crowd was screaming in horror. Doctors rushed in and gave her the heartbreaking diagnosis. Stage 4, cancer, terminal. Today, after days of complete silence, Patti LaBelle has finally broken her silence and confirmed the devastating truth that's shattering the entire Black community. This isn't just about cancer. It's about 60 years of hidden pain, losing every sister to the same disease, the lonely nights in that empty mansion, and the family secrets she's carried alone for decades. If you ever cried listening to Lady Marmalade, or If Only You Knew, you're going to be in tears by the end of this video. Welcome to Black Legends. Let's talk about the tragic final chapter of Patti LaBelle. If you love these raw, emotional stories about our true Black legends, smash that subscribe button right now, hit the bell, and join the family so you never miss the next heartbreaking chapter. Chapter 1. From the ghetto streets of Philadelphia to the Queen of Soul. But before we dive any deeper into the devastating Stage 4 cancer battle that has the entire Black community holding its breath right now, we have to go all the way back to where the legend truly began. May 24th, 1944. Southwest Philadelphia, Eastwick section. The air is thick with factory smoke and the constant rumble of freight trains rolling past the row houses. That's the exact day Patricia Louise Holte came screaming into the world, the second youngest of 5 children born to Henry and Bertha Holte. Her father worked the railroad by day and played in smoky clubs at night, but the bottle often won. He'd stumble home late, anger heavy in his voice. Her mother, Bertha, scrubbed floors in white folks' houses from sunrise till long after dark just to put food on the table. Little Patti grew up in that cramped, cold house where love was real, but so was struggle. By the time she was just 10 years old in 1954, Patti had already found her sanctuary inside Beulah Baptist Church. Every Sunday, the wooden pews would fill with the faithful, and when that little girl stepped up to the microphone in the choir, something holy happened. Her voice, raw, powerful, and full of soul, would rise above the hymns and make grown men wipe tears from their eyes. 2 years later, in 1956, at age 12, she delivered her very first solo. The church went silent, then erupted. That night, Patti knew music wasn't just a hobby, it was her way out. Fast forward to 1960. 16-year-old Patti walked onto the stage of John Bartram High School talent show wearing a simple dress her mother had sewn. She sang her heart out and won first place. That single victory lit the spark. She gathered 3 school friends and formed a group they called the Ordettes. They started singing at local talent shows, church events, and tiny clubs around Philadelphia. 4 Black girls with big dreams and even bigger voices. But the road wasn't paved with gold. By 1962, after some lineup changes, the group became Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells. They signed their first record deal and hit the road. Imagine this: 4 young women crammed into a station wagon, driving through the segregated South. No nice hotels for Black performers back then. Many nights they slept right there in the back of that cold, cramped bus, wrapped in blankets, sharing 1 bag of potato chips for dinner. Patti would later recall the freezing winters when they had to huddle together just to stay warm. Yet even in those hard times, her voice kept the dream alive. In 1963, they dropped their first big hit, Down the Aisle, the wedding song. Then came You'll Never Walk Alone in 1964, songs that started climbing the charts and put their name on the map. But here's the part most people don't talk about. Even as the spotlight started shining brighter, Patti was already carrying heavy burdens. She was sending every dime she could scrape together back home to Philadelphia. Her mother's tired hands, her sister's struggles, she felt it was her job to lift the whole family out of that ghetto. She was the hope. She was the one who was supposed to make it. By the early 1970s, the group had evolved. They shortened the name to LaBelle, traded the matching dresses for glittering space-age outfits, and exploded onto the funk soul scene. Then came the moment that changed everything forever. November 1974. The album Nightbirds dropped. The lead single? Lady Marmalade. Released officially in early 1975, that song shot straight to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Millions of copies sold. Grammy nominations. Rolling Stone magazine put 4 black women on the cover for the first time ever. Patti LaBelle, the girl from the Philadelphia projects who once slept on a tour bus, was now the undisputed Queen of Soul. Crowds screamed her name. "Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir?" echoed from every radio, every club, every house party across America. She had made it. She had pulled her family out of poverty. She had turned that church voice into a global force. But even in the middle of all that glittering success, tiny cracks were already forming. Patti would later admit that the fear never left her. She watched her sisters, Vivian and Barbara, start complaining about strange pains and endless fatigue in their early 40s. She saw her mother's health slowly decline. She felt the weight of being the strong one who could never show weakness. The mansion in Philadelphia might have been bigger than that old row house, but some nights it felt just as empty. The fame brought money, but it also brought loneliness. The same voice that saved her family was slowly becoming the only thing she had left to lean on. She had no idea back then that the very disease quietly stalking her family would one day come for her too, at 82 years old, in the form of stage 4 cancer. Do me a favor right now. Smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and join the Black Legends family. Because this story is just getting started, and the heartbreaking chapters ahead will test everything you thought you knew about the Queen of Soul. Chapter 2. The First Devastating Losses, a Family Torn Apart. Just when Patti LaBelle had finally climbed from the ghetto to the throne of soul, the very thing that made her rise so high began to tear her world apart. It started in March 1975, the same year Lady Marmalade was exploding across America. Patti was on top of the world, but back in Philadelphia, her older sister Vivian, only 43 years old, started getting blinding headaches that wouldn't stop. Doctors ran tests. The news hit like a freight train. Brain cancer, aggressive and already spreading. Patti rushed home from tour. She canceled 2 big shows in New York just to sit beside Vivian's hospital bed at Jefferson University Hospital. The room smelled of antiseptic and fear. Vivian, once the strong big sister who protected little Patti from their father's drunken rages, now lay there wasting away before her eyes. Her beautiful thick hair began falling out in clumps after the first round of radiation. Handfuls on the pillow every morning. In just 6 short weeks, Vivian went from vibrant and full of life to a frail shadow of herself, skin stretched tight over bones, eyes sunken and glassy. Patti would hold her hand for hours, tears streaming down her face. One night in late April 1975, as the machines beeped slower and slower, Patti leaned in close and whispered through sobs, "I'll sing for you, sis. Every song from now on is for you. I'll carry your voice with mine." Vivian managed one weak smile and passed away just days later on May 3rd, 1975. Patti was only 30 years old, but she already felt the cold hand of death closing around her family. She thought that was the worst pain she would ever feel. She was wrong. Only 7 years later, in July 1982, the curse struck again. This time it was Barbara, the sister closest in age to Patti, the one who used to braid her hair and dream with her about escaping the projects. Barbara was just 40 when doctors diagnosed colon cancer, stage 4, eating her from the inside out. Patti flew back immediately. She sat in that same sterile hospital room for weeks, watching Barbara's body shrink to almost nothing. The chemo made her vomit violently every single day. Her once strong frame became skeletal. Her skin turned gray. Patti would sneak in soul food she cooked herself, sweet potato pie, collard greens. But Barbara could barely swallow a spoonful. One heartbreaking afternoon in August 1982, Barbara gripped Patti's hand with what little strength she had left and begged, "Promise me you'll keep singing. Don't let this thing take you too." Patti broke down completely, rocking back and forth, promising through tears. Barbara died on September 12, 1982, just 40 years old. Patti later said the grief felt like someone ripped her heart out and stomped on it. But the nightmare refused to end. January 1989 brought the final, most crushing blow. Jackie, the baby sister full of fire and laughter, was diagnosed with lung cancer at only 43. The same disease that had already claimed 2 sisters was now coming for the last one. Patti was in the middle of recording a new album, but she dropped everything. She moved into the hospital almost full-time, sleeping on a cot beside Jackie's bed. The scenes were unbearable. Jackie's hair fell out completely within weeks. She became so weak she couldn't even lift her arms. The pain was so intense that morphine barely touched it. Patti would sing softly to her, "If Only You Knew," the song that had once brought them both to tears, while stroking what was left of her sister's bald head. One night, just 2 days before the end, Jackie whispered her final request. "Make me an egg sandwich, Patti, like Mama used to." Patti rushed home, cooked it with shaking hands, but when she brought it back, Jackie was already slipping away too fast to eat. She died on January 28, 1989, gasping for air in Patti's arms. 3 sisters, all gone before 45. All taken by cancer in the cruelest, most painful ways imaginable. And it didn't stop with the sisters. Her mother, Bertha, who had worked her fingers to the bone cleaning white folks' houses, had been battling diabetes for years. The disease slowly destroyed her, legs amputated, kidneys failing, and doctors later discovered cancer complications as well. She passed in 1978, right in the middle of Patti's rising fame, leaving a hole that never healed. Then her father, Henry, the railroad man who once sang in clubs but drank his pain away, died in October 1989, just months after Jackie, from complications of diabetes mixed with cancer and Alzheimer's. Patti was now completely alone. No parents, no sisters, just the echo of their voices in empty rooms. By her mid-40s, Patti was living in pure terror. She would wake up in cold sweats, convinced the family curse was coming for her next. She once confessed in private, "I was terrified I wouldn't make it to 50. Every headache, every ache in my body, I thought this is it. Cancer is coming for me too." She walked around with that constant shadow hanging over her, smiling for the cameras, belting out hits on stage, but inside she was screaming. The Queen of Soul had the world at her feet. But at home, she was burying the people she loved most, one by one, watching them waste away in hospital beds while she whispered promises she didn't know if she could keep. That same fear, that same disease, is now knocking on her door at 82. Stage 4, cancer. The one she prayed would never find her. Smash that subscribe button right now. You're not going to want to miss what comes next. The heartbreaking truth gets even heavier. Chapter 3. Hidden Shadows of a Legend's Life. The hospital rooms had gone quiet. The funerals were over. 3 sisters, a mother and a father, all taken by the same cruel diseases that now haunted Patti LaBelle's every waking moment. She had sung through the tears on stage, smiled for the cameras, and kept the world believing the Queen of Soul was unbreakable. But behind the closed doors of her private life, there was only one place left where she still hoped to find shelter: her marriage. She and Armstead Edwards had walked down the aisle on July 23, 1969, in a simple ceremony at the Justice of the Peace in Maryland. No grand wedding, just beer, soft-shell crabs, and the quiet promise of forever. Armstead left his teaching job to manage her career. For more than 3 decades, they built a life together. Their son, Zuri Kai, was born on July 17, 1973, filling their Philadelphia home with the sound of a baby's laughter and a little boy's footsteps racing down the hallway while Patti practiced scales in the living room. In those early years, the house felt warm. Armstead handled the contracts and the tours. Patti poured her heart into the music. They were a team, but the losses changed everything. After Vivian died in 1975, then Barbara in 1982, Jackie in 1989, and both parents soon after, the grief settled into their marriage like thick smoke. Patti would come home from the road exhausted, her body aching from the weight of performing while mourning. Armstead would try to hold the family together, but the constant travel, the medical bills that never seemed to end, and the unspoken fear that cancer would one day claim Patti too, began to wear them down. They stopped talking the way they once had. The arguments grew longer, quieter, heavier. By the late 1990s, the love that once filled the house had turned into polite distance. On January 15, 2003, after 33 years together, Patti and Armstead Edwards quietly finalized their divorce in Philadelphia. The papers called it irreconcilable differences. In private, it was the slow unraveling of 2 people who had simply carried too much for too long. Patti later said they still liked each other from a distance, but in that moment, the finality of it felt like the last door closing on the life she had known. What came next was a loneliness deeper than anything she had faced in the hospital rooms. In the spring of 2004, the big suburban mansion she had once shared with her family now echoed with emptiness. The grand chandeliers cast long shadows across the marble floors. Rain drummed against the tall windows as Patti sat alone in the living room one night, still wearing the same silk robe she had put on that morning. Her type 2 diabetes, diagnosed back in 1995 after she collapsed on stage in New York, had grown worse. Her feet and legs swelled painfully. The neuropathy sent sharp, burning shots up her calves every time she tried to walk. There was no one there to bring her a glass of water or rub her aching shoulders. No one to hold her when the tears finally came. She would stare at old photo albums spread across the coffee table, running her fingers over pictures of Zuri as a little boy. After the divorce, Zuri, now in his early 30s and busy building his own path in the music business, grew more and more distant. Phone calls became shorter. Visits grew rare. The son who once ran into her arms now seemed swallowed by his own responsibilities. Patti would sit in that vast, silent house and whisper to the empty rooms, "Where did everybody go?" Some nights the pain and the silence became too much. In the darkest months of 2004 and 2005, she battled a depression so heavy that she stood at the edge of a terrifying decision more than once. She later admitted in quiet moments that she had come dangerously close to ending the suffering herself. The same woman who had belted out Lady Marmalade for millions was, in private, fighting the urge to simply disappear. She hid it all. She locked the doors, drew the curtains, and let the music become her only escape. Singing was the one thing that still made the emptiness feel bearable. To make matters worse, the medical bills from years of caring for her dying sisters and parents had drained much of what she had built. In 2006, she was forced to sell one of the family homes, the very house where she had once dreamed of growing old surrounded by grandchildren. She signed the papers with trembling hands, watching strangers walk through rooms that held decades of memories. All that remained was her voice and the crushing weight of being completely alone. The Queen of Soul had given the world hit after hit, joy after joy. But in the quiet hours inside that empty mansion, with swollen feet propped on a footstool and no one to comfort her, Patti LaBelle was simply a woman who had buried everyone she loved and now watched her own son drift further away. The fame, the money, the glittering stage lights could not fill the space where family used to be. That same heavy loneliness, that same silent battle would follow her into her later years, right up to the moment doctors delivered the stage 4 cancer diagnosis she had feared her entire life. If this raw, hidden side of Patti's journey has touched something deep inside you, take a moment right now and smash that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. The story is about to get even heavier. In the next chapter, we step into 2026. The collapsed stage, the devastating medical update, and the final truths she can no longer hide. Chapter 4. Life in 2026. Exploding rumors and the rapid, heartbreaking decline. The silence inside that once vibrant Philadelphia mansion had become Patti LaBelle's constant companion. After decades of burying her family, watching her marriage dissolve, and feeling her only son drift further away, the Queen of Soul entered 2026 determined to give her fans one final gift. In January, she quietly announced her farewell tour, One Last Ride. The dates were set. The tickets went on sale in minutes. Fans across the country cried tears of joy and sorrow, believing this would be their last chance to see the woman who had soundtracked their lives. But behind the excitement, something was terribly wrong. On February 14, 2026, Valentine's Day, Patti stepped onto the stage at the Westbury Music Fair in New York for what was supposed to be a warm-up show. The house lights dimmed, the crowd roared. She opened her mouth to sing "If Only You Knew," and the voice that once shook stadiums came out thin, raspy, and trembling. Fans in the front rows froze. Phones went up. One shaky video captured the moment perfectly. Patti's hand gripping the microphone stand for support, her knees buckling slightly, her legendary high notes cracking and fading into a painful whisper. She powered through the song, smiling through the strain, but the damage was done. Within hours, the clip spread like wildfire across social media. Comments flooded in. What's wrong with her voice? She looks so frail. Is Miss Patti okay? She told everyone it was just a cold. She was fine. She was still Patti LaBelle. She was lying. Just 3 weeks later, on March 8, 2026, during a closed-door rehearsal for the One Last Ride tour in a private studio outside Philadelphia, the truth finally exploded. Patti was midway through Over the Rainbow when it happened. Without warning, her body went rigid. She dropped the microphone. Blood suddenly poured from her nose, streaming down her chin and onto her sparkling rehearsal top. She gasped, clutching her chest, unable to catch her breath. Her backup singers screamed. Stagehands rushed in. She collapsed right there on the hardwood floor, eyes wide with terror, struggling to speak. Paramedics rushed her to Jefferson University Hospital, the same hospital where she had watched her sisters waste away decades earlier. Hours later, after urgent scans and biopsies, the doctors delivered the news no one wanted to hear. Stage 4 glioblastoma, an aggressive terminal brain cancer. Tumors had already spread deep into her brain and were pressing against critical areas. They gave her months, maybe less. The room went dead silent except for the steady beep of machines. Patti sat up in that hospital bed, still in her rehearsal clothes stained with dried blood, and looked the doctors straight in the eye. When they offered aggressive chemotherapy and radiation, she slowly shook her head. "No," she whispered. "I've watched too many people I love fight this battle and lose. I want to go peacefully. I want to go on my own terms, with dignity." She signed the papers refusing treatment that very afternoon. She wanted to spend whatever time she had left singing, cooking in her kitchen, and saying goodbye on her own schedule, not hooked up to machines in a sterile room. Back at the mansion, only a small team of live-in helpers now walks the halls. Her son, Zuri, has been seen only a handful of times in the past year. The once close bond that survived the divorce has grown painfully distant. Neighbors whisper that the big house, filled with platinum records and family photos, now feels more like a museum than a home. Patti spends most nights alone in the living room, wrapped in a blanket, staring at old concert footage on the big screen, humming along with a voice that grows weaker by the day. She has carried this secret for months. She told close friends, "I sing for other people, but nobody sings for me when I'm in pain." She hid the headaches, the dizzy spells, the terrifying nosebleeds, all of it, because she didn't want to break her fans' hearts. She kept showing up, kept smiling, kept promising one last ride. But the ride is ending faster than anyone imagined. That same woman who once slept in a tour bus to feed her family, who buried 3 sisters, her parents, and her marriage, now sits alone at 82, facing the final curtain with the same disease that destroyed everyone she ever loved. If this latest chapter of Patti's painful journey has you feeling every ounce of heartbreak, take a second right now and smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and join the Black Legends family. Because in the final chapter, we reach the moment everyone has been waiting for. The day Patti LaBelle finally broke her silence and confirmed the devastating truth to the world. The confession that will leave you in tears is coming next. Chapter 5. She finally confirms the heart-wrenching moment everyone feared. The mansion in Philadelphia had never felt so still. It was March 20th, 2026, a cold, rainy Friday night. The grand living room, the same room where Patti once hosted Christmas dinners for her entire family, was now swallowed in darkness. Only one small lamp on the side table cast a soft, golden glow across the marble floor. Rain tapped against the tall French windows like quiet fingers asking to be let in. The air smelled faintly of her favorite vanilla candles and the faint trace of old perfume still clinging to the velvet curtains. Patti LaBelle sat alone on the oversized leather sofa, wrapped in a thick cashmere shawl the color of midnight. Her once powerful frame looked smaller now, fragile under the weight of 82 years and the invisible war inside her brain. In her lap rested the old silver microphone she had carried on stage since the Bluebells days, the very same one she used for Lady Marmalade back in 1975. The cord dangled loosely across her knees like a lifeline that had finally run out. She stared straight into the small camera her assistant had set up on a tripod. No makeup, no glittering stage lights, just Patti, raw, exposed. Tears already tracing slow paths down her cheeks. And then she spoke. "Today, I'm finally ready to tell the truth." Her voice cracked, but she kept going, steady and clear, the same voice that once filled arenas now reduced to a painful whisper that somehow still carried the weight of a queen. "I have stage 4 glioblastoma. The doctors told me it's terminal. I don't know how much longer I can sing. I don't know how many more mornings I'll wake up and see the sun. But I want to thank every single one of you for loving me when the whole world turned its back. You were there when my sisters left me. You were there when my marriage fell apart. You were there when my own son couldn't find the time. Your love kept this old heart beating longer than the doctors ever expected." She paused. A single tear dropped onto the microphone in her hands. She wiped it away with trembling fingers. Then she told them what no one had ever heard before. "Last week I had a dream. I was standing in the old Beulah Baptist Church in Philadelphia. The pews were filled with light, and there they were, Vivian, Barbara, and Jackie, all 3 of my sisters. They looked exactly like they did before the cancer took them, young, beautiful, smiling. They reached out their hands and called my name. 'Come on home, Patti,' they said. 'We've been waiting for you. Mama and Daddy are here too. It's time.' I woke up crying so hard I couldn't breathe. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid anymore." Her eyes drifted to the empty hallway behind her. The house was silent except for the rain. Zuri called yesterday. He said he was busy with work and would try to fly in next month. His voice sounded tired, polite, like he was talking to a stranger. I told him I loved him. I told him not to worry. But when I hung up, I sat right here on this sofa and cried for 2 hours straight. My baby boy, the only piece of family I have left. And even he, feels so far away now. She took a deep breath, then slowly stood up, using the arm of the sofa for support. The camera followed her as she walked across the room, past the wall of platinum records and framed photos of her sisters, into the small private recording studio at the back of the mansion. The studio lights were off. Only the red record light glowed above the mixing board. She sat down at the piano, placed the old microphone on the stand, and closed her eyes. And then she sang. Not for the cameras, not for the fans, just for herself and for the sisters waiting on the other side. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. Her voice was thin, fragile, breaking on every high note, but it was still unmistakably Patti LaBelle. The same voice that once shook the world now sounded like a final prayer. Tears streamed down her face as she sang the last verse she would ever record in this life. She knew, deep in her bones, that this would be the final take. When the last note faded into silence, she rested her forehead against the microphone and whispered, "I'm not fighting anymore. I've fought enough. I've buried enough. I've cried enough. I just want to go in the arms of my music. The same arms that have held me since I was a little girl singing in church. Let me leave the way I came in, singing." She looked directly into the camera one last time, eyes red but peaceful. To every black mother, every sister, every daughter who ever felt alone, thank you for letting me be your voice when you couldn't find your own. I love you. I'll see you on the other side. The screen faded to black. Patti LaBelle, the Queen of Soul, is writing the final pages of her legendary story right now. If your heart is breaking just like mine after hearing everything she's been through, do me a favor right now. Hit that like button and drop a comment below with "Pray for Patti." Let her know the Black community is lifting her up in prayer tonight. And if you want to know what's really going on with Gladys Knight, or what Smokey Robinson has been quietly battling at 85, the next video in this series is dropping tomorrow. I promise it's going to hit just as hard. So, if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button right now, hit the notification bell, and join the Black Legends family so you never miss these raw, emotional stories about the icons who raised us. Send all your love and prayers to Patti before it's too late. We'll see you in the next heartbreaking chapter. God bless you, and God bless the Queen.